Welcome back to the channel if you're a returner. If you're new, my name's Tyjer Morris. I played Division III lacrosse and football at Alvernia University, and welcome to my channel. The purpose of this video is just kind of to talk about things that you probably should know before you enter collegiate athletics, things you probably should look into before you ultimately take that next step to go to that next level, and things that I wish that I took more seriously and things that I wish someone who's in my shoes now said to me previously. So the number one thing, the biggest thing that I try to tell athletes that talk to me about playing at the next level, whether that's Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, JUCO, all across the board, collegiate athletics is ultimately going to become a job. It's going to become your career throughout high school. It's no longer the sport that you play because you have fun. It's not the sport you play just because you love to play the game. This becomes your job. So obviously you play the sport that you love at the next level if you have the ability to do so and you have the opportunity to do so. But at that next phase, it's no longer just a game. It becomes a career. It becomes what you eat, sleep, and breathe. And in my circumstance, my instance, when I was hearing this in high school, I just wasn't really paying any mind. I'm like, well, I already do all that extra stuff in high school. I already lift before school, after school. I already do the film sessions. I already do the practices. It's no big deal. I'm just going to transition into it. I'll just be playing with a new team with new guys. Other than that, it's the same game. That's what I had thought. But then once I got to college, I realized that it's a complete culture shock. It's ultimately nothing like high school. The experience that I had playing high school football compared to the experience I had playing college football, you can't really compare them. I don't usually like to speak on other sports because I didn't play those sports. Obviously, I'm not living those sports, but I believe that it's safe to say that across the board, collegiate athletics, it becomes a job. Top to bottom, it's a job. The coaches treat it as a business. The ADs treat it as a business. And ultimately, because it is a business, these are how these people are paying their bills. These are how people are feeding their kids. This is how they're putting food on the table. This is their job. In high school, most of the time your coaches, at least around here, your coaches are teachers, coaches are professors, coaches are professionals, around the building. In college, this is their sole career. If they win, they get paid. If they lose, they're out of there. So when it comes to you being the athlete, you are ultimately, they're investing in you. You are an investment. You're supposed to return that investment to them. You're supposed to bring money to them, bring money to their homes, bring money to their kids. Ultimately, they're depending on you to feed their families. So it is treated like a business. So with that being said, in a sense, you are an employee. You're waking up early, you're staying up late, you're doing all the extra things that they want you to do, that they think that you need to do in order to prepare to be best for the team, be best for them. Now, with that being said, your personal life doesn't really get accounted for because you are an employee to them. Much like bosses do with employees in the real world, they don't really care what you're doing in your personal life as long as it doesn't make the company look bad. So in our instance, with football, during football season, I don't really have a personal life. I don't get to come home as often. Throughout the year, I come home only on big breaks. I come home Thanksgiving, I come home Christmas, Easter in the summer. That's the only time I see my family other than them coming to the games or maybe stopping by my school. For other sports, I can't speak on how often they go home, but I can speak on the part that athletes don't really have the personal life that other students get to have. And that's something that many people don't know before they get into collegiate athletics. That's things that other people don't really look into and things that ultimately cause people to quit. So throughout the past couple of days, I've just seen videos of other YouTubers, people on social media just saying, oh, I quit Division I athletics because X, Y, Z. I quit because this, that, and the third. And ultimately, that's just a thing from top to bottom. Collegiate athletics is a whole nother beast. It's not something that you can just wake up and show up to practice, just wake up and show up to the workouts and just ultimately assume that you're going to perform at your best ability throughout the games. It is another beast. To get past it being treated like a business, it is your career. So with that being said, it's all year round. At least in high school, for me, once the season was over in that sport, you can go to the next sport. You'd have your off-season workouts, maybe you have your exit meetings, but other than that, you have downtime when it comes to that sport. When it comes to college, nothing the same, completely different. In our instance, for football, we may have 2 or 3 weeks off after the last game, and then we're really hitting recruiting heavy. We're talking to recruits, we're talking to parents, we're doing Q&As, we're housing recruits, we're giving out tours. Ultimately, we're trying to give out our best sales pitch to have new kids come in to revamp our program. Outside of that, when recruiting's done, that's when spring ball's heavy. That's when off-season lift is heavy. That's when you're having, like I said, your spring practices, you're doing your film sessions, you're looking at the film of previous season, whether it's games or practice film. Ultimately, it's all year round. It's forever going all year round. On top of it being treated as a business and it being a career, you need to know that nutrition is a huge key of your game. Probably it's bigger than the game itself at most points. So really, for us in particular, we have coaches that type out meal plans for us. They type out workout plans for us, individualized workout plans, individualized meal plans on what you should be eating in the calf, what you shouldn't be eating in the calf, how many calories you should be taking, or how many calories you should be consuming and eating each day. Some of the coaches track those. They ask for a daily report or a weekly report of what you ate, how many calories you consumed, how many calories you burned throughout workouts. Spend a lot of time in the training rooms, getting to know your trainers. They're making individualized rehab plans for you, telling you what times you need to be in the training rooms, how many times a day you need to come to the training room, and what days of the week you need to go to the training room. And those are all getting tracked by your coaches. Those are all notes are being taken on your attendance, what time you were where, how long you were where. Finally, once you get past the nutrition aspect and it being a business, as being your career, that's when you have to remember you are a student athlete. You ultimately came to college to get an education. So this is really when you have to think about how are you gonna finish the job, how are you gonna achieve your goals, how are you gonna schedule the classes that you need to schedule in order to get the degree in whatever program you aspire to, and ultimately take all the classes that you need to take to be successful and get out of college as soon as you can. So in our instance, with football, it's very, very hard to schedule. It's only because our practice times aren't always the same, because we share one field for almost all the fall sports. Teachers maybe teach 2 or 3 classes a day, and those classes typically top off at 30 kids per seat or per class. So the whole university is trying to cram into these 2 classes that fit only 30 kids, and then you have to take in consideration what times you're available for practice, what times you're available for lifting, what times you have to be in study hall, what time you want to sleep, what time you want to eat, etc. So it gets very chaotic, it gets very hectic. A lot of the times it's unorganized and you have to be flexible. So me personally, I've had to change my schedule probably 3 times already just for this semester, because there's been a last minute practice change, or a teacher changed what time he or she wants to teach the class, or the classes were full, or my advisor, I was told by advising, oh, you need to take this class will get you on track, this class will help you graduate early, this class will help you graduate on time. So ultimately there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of things that you have to put together, there's a lot of things that aren't in your control and that you have to depend on others with. So it can be very unsettling and uncomforting knowing that ultimately your state and your future is in the hands of someone else and you have no say, you can't do anything about it. You just kind of have to hope that, you have to trust and hope that the people that you put it in, the hands that you put it in, they're gonna make the decisions that help best fit you and help ultimately you succeed the most. So in a lot of instances with athletes, they don't have a lot of time to have social lives. It's hard to have time to spend with friends that aren't on your team. That's just how it naturally goes for most people, for me especially, because my schedule would go so. I would wake up at around 4:30, 4:45 for 5 a.m. meetings, and then from 5 a.m. meetings I would have 6 a.m. practice. Practice would end around 8 o'clock, 8:30, depending on what day of the week it was and how practice was going. And then from that point I would go to eat breakfast. I'd get done breakfast and showering and all that around 9:30. I'd have class around 10 o'clock, 10:15. And those classes would range they would end around 3:30ish, 4 o'clock. And then after that, I was spending time, like I mentioned, going to the training room, trying to rehab, trying to build my body up. And then on top of going to the training room and all that, I was lifting, I was watching film with the coaches about practice, watching film about games, just ultimately trying to figure out how I can improve my game, how I can improve my teammates' game. And then once you end all that, you go to the caf for dinner. And dinner around maybe 7:30. Then by that time you're going back to your dorm, you're showering, you're doing your homework, and then you're restarting the next day. So with that, it becomes very hard to try to factor in a social life when you try to consider being an athlete, being a student. Maybe you're in another club or you have a job on campus. Typically there's not a lot of time for social life, not a lot of time to hang out with your friends, there's not a lot of time to go out to events on campus. Maybe there's clubs or such on campus, there's events on campus that you don't have the time to go to, and ultimately that's what leads a lot of people that I see to quit. So people come into school and they assume that it's just a thing that's fun. They don't really. They underestimate how much time is going to be dedicated to the sport. They underestimate how much of the time is going to be consumed with the sport, and how much time it requires to, be dedicated even outside of practices and games. So a lot of people, they come into college not knowing that they're going to spend a lot of time working out. They're going to spend a lot of time watching film. They're going to spend a lot of time in the training rooms. Ultimately, they're going to do a lot of things that they didn't have to do in high school. They weren't required to do in high school, and things that ultimately were optional in a lot of schools are now becoming mandatory at the next level. So that causes a lot of pushback from what I've seen, and ultimately causes a lot of people to quit playing collegiate athletics. I'm not making this video to scare anyone. I don't want to scare anyone away from collegiate athletics. I just want people to know what they're signing themselves up for. Obviously, it can be done. I'm doing it. Many athletes across the world are doing it. It's not the hardest thing in the world. It's just, if you're going to do it, you need to know what you're getting yourself into. You need to know what you're signing up for, and you need to know that it's not going to be a walk in the park. Once you get past all that and you're mentally prepared and you're really dedicated to the sport that you love and you're passionate about it, like I said, it can be done. It's not the hardest thing in the world. It's just the matter of sticking with it and pushing through all the adversity you face, and ultimately just giving it your best go. But my name's Tyler Morris, and I play Division III athletics, and thank you for watching my video. I hope you guys enjoyed.